Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Literature and Robes. Lit Robes, as we're going to call it. I'm your host, Jared, and we're going to be talking about a brand new book that just came out June 8th. It is the final book in the Between Earth and Sky trilogy, written by Rebecca Roanhorse.
Isn't that special?
And she is a Native American writer who has built a story about Native American or pre-Columbian fantasy with pre-Columbian conceived characters, magic systems. There's a lot of social structures that are built in here that are different than Western structures. Some have similarities. Rebecca's overall goal was to tell a fantasy story with, again, pre-Columbian Native American characters. Tribes found value in following certain animals, wolves, crows, eagles, things like that. So a lot of the themes in these books are very much based in themes that you would find about Native American beliefs. And it just really was, that was really the best part of these books to me, is to see a story told in a different way than the average Western kings and queens and knights and all that stuff. This was more like avatars and demigods or people who are able to harness a god's power. So the magic was really, really interesting in that aspect. So gods would grant humans certain gifts.
No mortal can stop me!
Not everybody has this, so there's a definite hierarchy between gods, and they have sorcerers, and then they have people who live in the world. People who also work under the same godlike being, or the tribe of people who follow whatever animal spirit they choose to follow. So the three books were eye-opening, original. There are several main characters that kind of take over the main story arc in each one. The first book, Black Sun, is kind of the story of, well, I mean, it's not going to spoil anything, but it's like a story about a crow god. The story was really great. It hit hard. I was fascinated by how everything kind of came together, and it really kind of set the stage for what this world was like, what the characters in it could do, what they were capable of, and what they were unable to do. So this, in its own right, it was a staggering debut. It introduced some very fascinating new types of characters, new magic systems that I had not come across, just really cool stuff. It introduces some gender fluidity, which in Native American cultures, there are people that are called two-spirited. It's been going on for centuries. In many cultures, there are people who seem to embody either androgynous type thinking styles. They're neither male nor female. However, they are also revered in their societies for having that, almost as if they have an advantage over others by having a perception of both male and female. So there is representation in here. There is romance between similar gendered people, LGBT, but it is never anything that is like, here, force it down your throat. It's just kind of told as if it is matter of fact, which I really appreciate from Rebecca Roanhorse. There are some authors out there that seem to be force-feeding that narrative, and I can appreciate what is trying to be done there, but in the same right, it almost feels like it's intentional. It's just going to take some time, as with anything in society. I am not against it. I cheer it all the way. I just think that, take it in moderation, people, because there are a lot of authors writing books these days that are, for good reason, promoting gender fluid folks that are not just hardcore cisgendered people. And again, it doesn't come through in this book. It's just a part of what Indian society was. So it doesn't make any sense to exclude that character or those characters with those characteristics from the book. It makes the story a more complete story of what Roanhorse is trying to tell here.
Correct.
second book here, Fevered Star, was great too. By the time this one came out, I was looking for it already, so I got myself a hardcover edition of that. I did not have one for this, but I really appreciated this story because, again, it's that Native American pre-Columbian storytelling that contributed to a really excellent fantasy.
These are serious accusations being thrown around.
This cover here is by an artist, John Picasso is what I'm going to say. I believe that this one was as well, John Picasso. I'll put the name up. Picasso. Great stuff.
Great. Really great.
Fevered Star follows another character, a sun god, crow god, and I bet you could probably guess what the last one is, but again, these aren't spoilers. It's just a part of the world. There are gods that are animals, the gods of growth and harvest, and it didn't always have to be an animal, so it's fascinating stuff. So this one was very interesting too because you get to see a new character grow into their own self. And in the third one here, which is the book that we're here to talk about, Mirrored Heavens, this is a remarkably beautiful cover. Once again, done by John Picasso. And I don't know if you can get in there real good, but you can see the eyes are kind of these rainbow colored eyes. It's just a gorgeous piece of art, this cover. I'm floored by it. And this is a character that is a part of all three books. All of these people are...
Do me a favor, and don't say it's fascinating. No. But it is...
fascinating. Mirrored Heavens was a good conclusion, and I'm assuming that if you read either of these, you'll kind of know where we're heading for Mirrored Heavens. There were some narrative difficulties for me in this book. However, I think Roanhorse could have possibly written another book to put more of, I don't know, I just feel like some things ended up missing or weren't spent enough time on. This book did not give itself enough time to kind of marinate, and I know it took her a little bit of extra time, I think, to get this book out. But I think that the first two books provided a lot of threads that needed to be tied up by the ending of it, and I feel like some of those threads were kind of MacGuffin-y, a very convenient sort of end. And that's unfortunate because I really enjoyed the first two books. I thought the story that was being told had a lot of potential to become really complex. My favorite parts of the books were the characters, the character focuses, the way we get to see the character arcs kind of come to fruition and conclusion. It's a satisfying end. She did really well with trying to get, again, all those loose threads tied up. I feel like some of them were very conveniently created for her to just get the story done. But again, on a whole, I think that this story, the trilogy together, is something new. Like when I read Gaurav Mohanty about Indian culture, that was fascinating because I got to read kind of about different spirits and different gods, different magic, different beliefs, different culture within the fantasy. This is kind of the same way. The Native American culture seeps through the words, through the story. You get a sense of people who are very devout to their spirit and their spirit guides and Native American lore that should be told, that we should be exposed to. I think it's just a really great thing. I would love to know if she wrote anything from actual histories, passed through songs and dances, texts, family stories, or something that she drew deeply from.
You just have to love who you are and do what you want to do, whatever makes you happy, rock on.
She's a great writer. She's done some other stuff. She's written some Star Wars. She's very well geared for writing for like the screen and maybe even, TV shows or anything like that. I read her, she's got like a YA fantasy that she hasn't completed either. But she tells good stories. She has good characters. That's one of her major strengths, I think. So this book on a whole was a satisfying conclusion. I think the first two books that she wrote were a lot better in terms of where we were going and the introduction of new characters, of new factions, of new magic, of new things that the characters could do with their magic. It was a very creative read. So I highly recommend it if you're into something that is not going to fall follow the same Western fantasy type of tropes. There are tropes, and all books seem to have some tropiness to them. It's really hard to tell a story without at least some. A lot of the tropes do make it into the story, how they're talked about, how they're discussed, how the author really uses the tropes in their own way, as opposed to just allowing the trope determine the direction of the character. So all that being said, I think that Mirrored Heavens, gosh, this cover gets a 5.5 out of 5 robes. I absolutely love it. I just can't get over it. It's just so beautiful. I think this trilogy sets itself apart. However, I'm frustrated, I think, in the end, that it wasn't quite what I had hoped. It was good. It was good enough. It gave me what I needed to get that conclusion. It just wasn't quite what I expected. So I really think that it was a very creative environment, a very creative world. The characters set themselves apart, and it was just a great trilogy. I will hang on to this because of its unique standalone quality for fantasy right now in my mind. I'm going to give Mirrored Heavens a 3.8 out of 5 stars. It just kind of rushed a little bit too much in the end for me. I was hoping to get slightly different out of it. And again, that's a subjective rating. The series as a whole, I think, is like 4.2. I really enjoyed the first 2 books, Black Sun and Fevered Star, and Mirrored Heavens was a satisfying end. I thought it was very creative. I thought it was very worth it. However, I think my expectations got in the way of it. So, gosh, I just can't stop staring at that cover. I don't know, I'm a little bit enamored by that. But everybody, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. And remember, keep reading. Keep reading.